The Galactic Academy of Advanced Sciences floated in geosynchronous orbit above the planet Zenthar Prime, a monument to interstellar cooperation and learning. Within its crystalline corridors, the offspring of 100 species studied together, learning the ways of diplomacy, science, and coexistence. But they were still children, prone to the universal follies of youth. Susan Mitchell sat in advanced xenobiology, her auburn hair tied back in a practical ponytail, furiously scribbling notes on her datapad. She was one of only 3 humans in the entire academy, a representative of Earth's recent admission into the Galactic Council. At 16 standard years, she carried the weight of her species' reputation on her slender shoulders. Behind her sat Vexthor, a Krillian noble whose chitinous exterior gleamed purple under the classroom's artificial lighting. His species had conquered 12 systems through military might before joining the Council, and he carried that legacy of dominance in every movement. Humans were new, weak, from a gravity-poor world with thin atmosphere. They were prey species that had somehow stumbled into space travel. The lecture droned on about carbon-based cellular adaptation, and Vexthor grew bored. His compound eyes fixed on the strange mammalian appendage hanging from the human girl's head. Hair, they called it. Dead protein filaments that served no purpose. How absurd. With one clawed appendage, he reached forward and yanked. Susan's head snapped backward, pain lancing across her scalp. The classroom fell silent. Professor Quillix, a gaseous Etherian, paused mid-sentence. What happened next would be discussed in hushed tones throughout the academy for years to come. Susan didn't cry. She didn't call for the teacher. She simply stood, turned around, and looked Vexthor directly in his multiple eyes. Her face had gone pale, then flushed deep red, a color change that fascinated and confused the alien students. "Do that again," she said quietly, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. "And you'll regret it." Vexthor clicked his mandibles in amusement. He was twice her mass, armored in natural chitin that could deflect small arms fire. "Or what, Softskin? Will you leak fluids from your eyes? That's what your kind does, yes?" The Krillian's 3 friends chittered with laughter. Susan's jaw clenched. "Last warning." Vexthor reached out again, this time grabbing a fistful of her hair and pulling hard. What followed happened in less than 3 seconds, but would be replayed on security footage countless times. Susan's hand shot out and grabbed one of Vexthor's extended appendages. Before he could react, she twisted her entire body, using a movement that seemed impossible for her slight frame. Vexthor found himself airborne, lifted and thrown over her shoulder. He crashed into his desk, which shattered under the impact of his armored body. The classroom erupted in shocked gasps and clicks and whistles. But Susan wasn't finished. As Vexthor struggled to rise, she pinned his primary appendage behind his back with one hand, while her other arm wrapped around his throat equivalent. She applied pressure to joints that Krillian anatomy shouldn't have made vulnerable. "Yield," she hissed into where she approximated his ear might be. Vexthor struggled, but every movement sent sharp pain through his exoskeleton. Impossible. Humans were weak. They came from a world with barely 1 standard gravity. They had no claws, no natural armor, no venom. "Yield!" Susan repeated, applying more pressure. I yield!" Vexthor gasped, his prideful warrior culture finally overriding his shock. Susan released him immediately and stepped back, her chest heaving, adrenaline still flooding her system. The classroom remained frozen in stunned silence. Professor Quillix finally found his voice, his gaseous form swirling with agitation. "Miss Mitchell, this is absolutely—" "He assaulted her first, Professor," came a voice from the back. Richard Chen, another human student, had his datapad raised, showing a recording of the entire incident. Article 12 of Academy Conduct allows for proportional self-defense. The professor's form flickered. "This is highly irregular. "So is pulling someone's hair," Susan said, her voice still tight with controlled anger. She turned to Vexthor, who was struggling to his feet. "On Earth we have a saying, 'Don't start none, won't be none.' You want to test humans because you think we're weak? Fine. But learn this now. We didn't climb to the top of our food chain by being pushovers." "But you have no natural weapons," Vexthor said, his voice carrying genuine confusion beneath the pain. "No armor. No—" "We have something better," Richard interjected, walking down to stand beside Susan. "We have persistence, adaptability. We spent 10,000 years figuring out how to kill things bigger and stronger than us. We turned it into art forms. Judo, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, hundreds of martial disciplines devoted to overcoming superior force." Susan nodded, her breathing finally steadying. "You're stronger than me, Vexthor. Tougher, too. But you've never had to be clever about fighting because you've always had those advantages. Humans? We've always been the underdog. We got good at it." News of the incident spread through the academy like wildfire. Within hours, every species had heard some version of the story. The small human female who threw a Krillian warrior across a classroom. The species that weaponized their own weakness. By evening, Susan found her inbox flooded with messages. Some were from admirers, others from challengers. But most were simply curious. How had she done it? What was judo? Could humans really defeat stronger species? Richard found her in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "You've become famous," he said, handing her a juice packet. Susan sighed. "I didn't want this. I just wanted him to stop." "I know. But maybe it's good. The other species need to understand. Humans aren't here to be pushed around. We're not the new kids to be bullied." "I just reacted," Susan said softly. "My dad made me take self-defense classes before I came here. He said, 'You're going to be far from home, surrounded by beings we don't understand. Be prepared.'" Smart dad. Below them, Zenthar Prime rotated slowly, its purple oceans reflecting the system's binary stars. Somewhere on that planet, the Galactic Council was likely hearing about the incident. Earth's reputation was being written in real time, one interaction at a time. The next day in xenobiology, Vexthor approached Susan before class. His posture was different, less aggressive, more cautious. "I owe you an apology," he said stiffly. "My behavior was dishonorable. Among my people, we respect strength. I did not see yours." Susan studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Apology accepted. And for what it's worth, you're tough. Most humans would have broken something throwing you." Vexthor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Perhaps we could train together? I wish to understand these human combat arts." A small smile crossed Susan's face. "Yeah, I'd like that." As the semester continued, something shifted in the academy. Humans were no longer dismissed as soft or weak. They were understood as something far more dangerous, survivors who had turned vulnerability into strength, who had made weapons of their own fragility. And throughout the galaxy, a new phrase began to circulate among the species. Never underestimate a human. They've been fighting gravity their whole lives.